My name is Monique Candelaria. And wow, did you give me quite like the amount of questions to sort through. So let me try to dissect who I am, where I come from, and then we can go through these questions. So spiritually, I am a two-spirited Hyoka empath who identifies as being a pansexual cisgendered female. Yeah, so that's already a mouthful, right? Like, and I'm sure there's tons of questions that are in that regard. But I am from the state of New Mexico, and here there is a beautiful blend of Native Mexican and European culture. So I am a product of that environment. So I feel that everything that I am is pulled from multiple belief systems and practices that I'm surrounded by. So I think that's the best way. So if you have any questions, just tell me.
What are your pronouns, first of all?
Pronouns, oh, you can call me a she, that's fine. So for me, like it's being two-spirited is spiritual. It is having the divine masculine and feminine in one vessel. So for whatever I am in any current moment, I'm not offended or take any kind of offense if somebody wants to identify me as male or female.
All right, well, thank you so much for clarifying that for our audience, especially because I don't think a lot of people who watch Lovecraft Country were at all familiar with a two-spirited character. So when I saw you, I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe it. I lost my mind. That is easily, your appearance on this show is easily the highlight of this show for me so far. So like, thank you. I'm trying not to be like all fanny and stuff like that, but this is like a total honor being able to talk to you and speak with you in this capacity. So let us just jump right into the question. So how did you initially get into acting and why? What inspired you?
So since my youth, I've always been involved in the arts. I originally started out with singing. That is my security blanket. It got me through a lot of childhood trauma. So I connect with it on a level that is also very spiritual, and it is my way of protecting myself and expressing myself. As I went through grade school, you obviously start doing different things. So when it came to writing, dancing, acting, I was able to explore it all and realize that there's a huge passion in all of that. Now, when I got to college, of course you think to yourself, all right, like I'm gonna get like my normal job, you know, that way I can have a security blanket to fall back on. So I excel in science. I've always been in enriched courses in that area. So I wanted to do forensic science, which is not a part of the curriculum at UNM. So I was like, I'll take the prereqs and then I'll transfer. So I started taking all the prereqs and I excel in it, but I was always looking for a way to be creative, to tell stories, to connect with people. And I realized that I would always be on that search. So it was at that point that I made a decision that even if I did not make a wealth of income or monetary gain, that as long as I was being true to myself and that creative desire, that was worth it for me. And so I changed my degree to be a theater major, emphasis in acting. And I graduated from UNM in 2009. So I jumped into the film industry in 2010 and have been union since 2011.
Did you have any celebrities or family who encouraged you, celebrities you admired? Like when you decided to become an actor, was there one person or even multiple people who said, yes, please, you are absolutely gifted at this, like please do it, and just completely like just encouraged you 100%?
You know what? My entire family has been so supportive of me in every capacity. I'm not gonna lie, they didn't exactly encourage me acting wise at first because I had started out with singing. So to them, they were like, why are you not focusing on singing? Why are you going, you know, the direction of acting? And basically what I told them is that singing is my security blanket. It's something that I have a personal connection with that I don't want to taint in that way. And through acting, I can participate in everything I love, everything that I enjoy, including martial arts and being physical and writing and creating the characters that we wish to see. So to me, acting made the most sense. I did cut out singing for 4 years all throughout college in order to also create that new environment of people actually seeing me as an actor, not as a singer. And once I graduated, established myself, then I found that singing came naturally back into my life, and I've been singing in New Mexico, I think since 2012, just at different bars and house parties and personal environments where it's just celebrating people living.
Now we're going to move on to, how did you get the role for Lovecraft Country? Like, what did you first think of your character, Yahima? Am I saying that right? Is it Yahima or is it Yahima, or am I pronouncing it completely wrong?
I pronounce it Yahima. There is no right and wrong as far as interpretation, right? So the language, this particular dialect from the Caribbean, has been lost since the 18th century. So it's not something that is currently used. There are obviously languages that have come from there, but not the particular one that they constructed for Yahima's character. So they actually did hire somebody that came in who studied the language extensively, did his absolute best to translate all of the text. He actually provided audios for me to verbalize and phonetically say each word. That way I had an understanding of what he believed was the way that it was supposed to be said. And then they hired a dialect coach to make sure that what I was practicing phonetically would match and honor the culture that they were doing their best to portray.
As far as, the next question, what did you first think of your character, and how did you actually get the role? Like how did they choose you to be this role? Because you yourself are two-spirit, and it's very rare, particularly in the LGBTQ plus community, that we see that type of proper representation. So how did you first feel about your character and receiving the role?
First, I think it comes down to communication. So my agent is wonderful in the sense that she really does her best to have a full scope of her clients and who they are inside and out, how they identify, and what they actually bring to the table. That way, when she has interactions with other people in the industry, she actually knows how to pitch and how to actually identify roles that are a beautiful fit for the person that she has in mind. Now, granted, this was not my agent's doing initially. Kim Coleman, I had the privilege of auditioning for prior, and I didn't land any of those roles. Basically, you go in, you do your thing, and you just let it go. Well, my agent and Kim Coleman both were keeping an eye out for me. Like she likes my work. She had already communicated that to my agent that she loves my work. And she was like, when the right role comes, I'm going to be in contact. So when Kim Coleman had gotten this role, she contacted my agent and was like, look, we would love to see her on tape. And again, they do make sure that everything is kosher, right? So my agent contacted me and was like, look, I want you to read this character. I want you to see if you resonate with it, if there's anything that you feel uncomfortable with, which is also the portrayal of this character later, right? So when I first saw this character, I actually understood it as a mythical being that had qualities of a snake that could be male, female, depending on the circumstances, could adapt to the environment and even procreate on their own. So I actually didn't think that it was an actual human representation of two-spirited. So even with that said, two-spirited, again, for me is very spiritual. Some people do say, want to identify it as intersex, but that's, it's a journey that we're all going through, right? Of how we identify with terms that are coming out, and culturally, it's just different. Mm-hmm. There's over 500 Native American cultures that will use terms in variant degrees depending on how you function within society. So this is not an easy realm to navigate through, and it is very important that we educate ourselves fully. That way, when we are embodying these characters, we're not giving a really blatant or ugly presentation of what it is, because it truly is something beautiful because it's very internal. Now, so again, if you guys have ever, I did post my auditions, so if you guys do want to see it, it is on Instagram. But you can see that I embedded qualities that were very snake-like, to the way that I move, to the way that I shift my body, to the vocal tonalities. Now, when I was cast for the part, that's when they were like, hey, you need to go to California. We're going to, make a cast of your lower body, and we're going to make a cast of your head. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay, so here I'm still thinking snake, right? I get there and they're like, hey, are you comfortable having a penis and a vagina pasted on yourself? Not exactly what I think of Two-Spirited, but understand that we are working with a visual format, and they are trying to make it very clear that there is a divine masculine and divine feminine quality to this character, and they are creating that physical presentation. Okay. Got it. So I do think that me being a female and not having anything in this region did allow them a flatter surface to create their own vagina and their own penis side by side next to each other. But even with this, it was totally with the understanding that we understand terms differently, and that's okay. And in the realm of what we're working with, this is how they're choosing. They did make it very clear to me too when I got on set, is when they were like, this is not like a mythical creature or creature at all. This is a being. And it is very important to bring the humanity in it. So whenever you see Yahima's performance, it's very human. And that is, I'm sorry, I do get emotional with it, because that first week when things like really came out, like the amount of energy that surrounded it, of individuals that weren't just curious by something that was different, but related to the character on multiple levels, of being abused, of being uprooted from their ancestry, of losing themselves and their sense of culture. And whenever they try to say their truth, are silenced, and not just silenced by not being understood, and not just silenced by somebody physically, shutting them up, but silenced by death. And there is this movement where people are fighting against that with everything in their being, but in the process of fighting, because there's such a miscommunication of terms and whether they're identifying correctly or not, or this and that, they lose the focus that we are all one. And if we honor humanity as a whole, and the earth as a whole, and we honor life, which is divine feminine, that's when we will move forward. So that first
time, please take your time. Please take your time. Take as much time as you need. Like, please take as much time as you need.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And as a Heyoka empath, I really am connected to my environment and to people. And I will still say that even acknowledging what I believed would happen when it aired, I'm very much on this journey with you all. So I think with Lovecraft Country, the idea of showing a brutal history is important for those who may not understand it. However, I think it is important in storytelling to give hope and show that there is a different way of being that incorporates everyone as a whole and honors their differences. And in watching Lovecraft Country, we see the brutality of things, but not the hope of things. So even when I saw Yahima on screen, it struck a chord with me that I didn't even realize was there until that moment. And it hurt. It really did hurt, because I realized the impact of it. But here's my hope for this, is that now people realize that there's a desire to learn and gain knowledge that they didn't previously have. I hope that creators on all formats take this into consideration when they are developing these characters, and not just show brutality. I mean, we see it every day on the news. We know that exists. But how we can create characters that have strength, true strength, that people want to not only identify with this person, but root for them and see them integrated in a very beautiful manner. So I guess that is my hope for other people, but I'm also trying to take in these concepts myself, and I'm doing my share of writing as well. And I am going to be reaching out to pitch several things that incorporate all of these aspects in a beautiful light that strengthen, empower, and give knowledge from all different lives, where I don't want it to be something that just causes arguments or creates hate. And so that's my focus. That's what I plan on doing.
So, okay, we're gonna go to well, spoiler alert, everybody who has not seen this character or has seen Lovecraft Country or Country up to this point. So Yahima's death is easily one of the most controversial. You know, as a queer, non-binary person, I absolutely hated seeing the representation killed off so abruptly, and it really felt like kind of the stereotypical trope of bury your gays. It's completely undeniable that Montrose's fear of the unknown is what drove him to do this. But how did you personally feel about the death of your character, as well as the controversy surrounding it?
Well, I
Take your time.
This show has been a roller coaster ride, even for myself. So even in being cast for this, I only had a glimpse into what was going to be presented. It was purely just my scene. So I had a whole other idea of what this show was, and even with like the couple of things that were coming out, we have to keep in mind that I did this last year, September, so 2019. If you tried looking it up, then you had a very simple synopsis of a boy looking for his father. We knew that it was a period piece, but ultimately I really didn't have much information. And even when they provided me the script, it was time sensitive. They never gave me a printable version. I literally had to by hand within 24 hours write out everything. And even when I got the translation, I did also on my Instagram put all of the dialogue that I learned and the translation in English, and I'm going to say as best possible of the meaning, because obviously languages don't translate into other languages word for word in a logical fashion. So I did put that on there, but there was over 3 minutes of that dialogue that I needed to learn. With that dialogue, though, it gave me total insight to the character, who they were, where they came from, how they function, how they were revered for whom they were and the qualities that they had. It's all in there, and it's really beautiful. So when I got to the part where I got Yahima got their throat slit, I was like, what? How they have the symbols? They literally tattooed symbols of protection all over their body, and those didn't go away by leaving one area and to another. Those stayed on there. I understand that other triggers could have happened, because as we're going up the elevator, we saw before that there were other symbols that were placed on the wall, but the ones on the physical body, it did not make sense. I said, so how is this character going to be tortured to live a millennia with their deceased relatives? Is torture, unintentional torture made by themselves because of the protection that they put on themselves. And then
yeah,
you know, so what? I was flabbergasted. I was like, this as someone who loves to tell and write stories, that did not line up at all. But the title of this is A History of Violence. And as much as we can have celebrations, you know, of Europeans coming into North America, We do have to acknowledge that they quickly turned 10 million Native Americans into 300,000, and yet it's not called genocide. So all of a sudden seeing this portrayal through a visual presentation of what that is, like, we're going to take everything from you, all the knowledge and power that you have, and I'm going to claim it as my own. I'm going to eliminate you so that I can take what you're giving and claim it as my own, was a rough pill to swallow. But is it accurate? It's accurate.
Yeah.
That is what happens. We get, and this isn't just particular to North America. This is any area that's invaded. They invade an area, they separate everybody, they take them from their people, they take them from their language, they strip them of everything they have. There's rape and pillaging because they're going to inseminate their culture into their lives, forcefully or not, and force them to love something in the future by integrating them. And that is another rough pill to swallow. So this show hits so many touchy subjects, and I think the whole point of this show is shock value. As far as I'm watching it, it is shock value. It is to acknowledge that we are having an intense emotion. It is igniting passion inside of us. I wish that it was more positive passion, but I do understand the shock value. The only thing that I can hope for is that by the end of this, no matter how many things are left unsaid, unclarified, or they never go back to, that other people will be like, you know what, we need a spin-off.
Yes.
Let's make a spin-off of Yahima, that culture, what that was like, and actually the quality that should have been there from the beginning of presenting that civilization in a beautiful way. And what can that be if it still exists? How can we change things to bring back that beauty? And that's, I think maybe perhaps, and I'm not the writer of this show, so I really hope that that is their promise internally, that they are digesting what people are saying and how they're reacting, and that it will lead to beauty. So we will see a phoenix be born of the ashes.
I am hoping so too, because your character's death almost put me completely off the show. Like it completely, it was just like, it's just like one of those moments where I'm just like, okay, great. Here is the representation so many of us need to see. And then in like the same episode, it's cut so short, and I'm just like, I had to take a minute. I'm like, do I really want to finish this show? I don't know if I liked what I saw happen to you at all. I didn't like that shit at all. Like, I was very upset about that. So I can't imagine, I'm not even pretend to imagine how you as the character, who you as someone who was two-spirit, like, saw that. So thank you so much for giving me your very, very honest thoughts on that. And I mean, like, just thank you, because I feel like—
No, thank you. I mean, these are things that we learn even when we're on set, right? Of how we digest a character in presenting Yahima as being totally vulnerable and naked, right? Initially, you're going totally vulnerable, totally naked. But then we have to look back and be like, wait a minute here. Not just Native American cultures, African cultures, Hawaiian cultures, nudity is not seen as a bad thing. The human body is just the physical anatomy of what we are able to create. Whether we are giving life to our infants, whether we are literally procreating to bring life into this world, it is not seen as an ugly thing. So even when I started diving into the character on set, I didn't necessarily feel that Yahima was embarrassed by being exposed with their human body. It's an acknowledgement that I'm aware of their culture, yes, and that I make them uncomfortable when they see my body, that I'm okay with dressing. But it really took me a second of like, would I take clothes from him? I would probably much rather be naked than take clothes from him.
Right, I noticed, and that was something else in that scene that I noticed, that the first move in that scene was to immediately cover you up. And yes, that was just like, that felt kind of—
felt wrong, right? It actually felt wrong. I had actually spoken to Misha Green, and I was like, no, Yahima wouldn't do that. you know, Z is in this environment where she was not just abused, but tortured, and realizes that this person is of the lineage that put Z in this predicament. And I'm referring to Yahima as her only because in there they didn't have terms that differentiated between sexual orientation. So they acknowledged that it was a she, even though there was another part that was there. So please do forgive me when I call Yahima a she. The correct term would be Z. It is he, she, both, or neither, and it actually is in the text. So we had this conversation where I was like, Yahima would not clothe. There would be this internal resentment of, I don't need anything from you, I never have, and what you did is still present. But I think that they also knew that many people don't understand nudity within various cultures and those social norms. So seeing a character like mine that has a different orientation than what people are familiar with, it creates an uneasiness, it creates fear, and there is this need to cover or hide or, you know, conceal. So I think that they were being very mindful of the fact that people were going to respond, and these are very sensitive things that were going to be on display. And in their mindfulness, it did create a lot of character problems where I was like, I just wouldn't do this. I would not just willingly do this. And even in the end, when I follow them out, it's like, why did I just let them take the scroll?
Yeah.
Why did I just do that? Well, there was a part in there where it's just defeat, right? Yes, I've come back, but ultimately, what do I have to live for if everybody I cared about and loved, cherished, and valued is gone? So you know what? You want it? Take it. I'm not here to decipher it for you, so go ahead and take it. So there was a part that they cut out where Titus comes up to Yahima and says, you were the last of your kind, and it doesn't have to end with you. You have the ability to go out and share yourself and bring life to bring back your people, your culture. And then I go with him. There's a lot of things that were in there that I really thought at least would allow the audience to understand Yahima's actions and why Yahima even joined them to begin with after this whole history. And, you know, whether it's time, I don't know what the final decisions were. I don't know. I know that a lot of the text was cut out, and even what I learned, just, there's no way he can translate every line. If you have me saying text that nobody can read, there was no subtitles, then they're just hearing something without understanding. So I do understand why a lot of it did get, you know, chopped and cut, but it would have allowed people to really embrace that culture and what Yahima thought. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Holy smokes, it was mind-boggling, and it was interesting for me to see the final outcome too because of that. And I'm just grateful that there are people like you who want to question and want to observe and want to embody all that there is to embody, and who are unapologetically themselves. And if everybody could do that, we would be in such a beautiful world, a heaven on earth. And I'm grateful to any individual who is that, who embraces that inside and out. And they don't have to say, oh, they don't have to justify anything to anybody. You know, and I really want people to understand this, that feel good in your skin. As long as you're being good to yourself, you are being good to others, then be you, be true, you know, and stand side by side by all those around you that are willing to open themselves up and be that vulnerable. Because it's not easy. It is not easy to be on the chopping block and people be like, well, you're a cisgendered female, how dare you have a penis? like, what? Really? Yeah, no, there's some things that were said, and I genuinely, I'm like, that is not my focus. For someone who's going to share that kind of hate, I want to call them educated trolls. They want to dissect a term on how they believe it to be true, but they have not walked the path of every single category in this community. There's no way to navigate every single one of those areas. So I laugh, and there's a part of me that's like, one day you may understand that we don't have to justify anything to anybody ever. Now, for those who are curious, those who genuinely ask, God, I'm an open book.
Yes.
I will answer any question. I will share all that I have to give, because anything that I'm giving you is done from a place of love. Love for those around me, love for myself, love for the world as a whole, without any biases of where you come from, where you belong, how you want to identify. It's like all of that is just wiped clear. So actually, this is something that I'm focusing on. I do want to build a lifestyle brand called Shift. And it's going to be spelled SHYPHT. And what it stands for is those who are in the arts, politics, activists, spirituality, avenues where we can all become one. There is no separation. There is no acronym that has to be created. If you are shifting your spiritual, physical, or mental capacity in order to change the perception of yourself and others, then you belong. And I want it to be as simple as, who are you? What are you? I'm a shifter. That is my goal.
I love that. I'm entirely here for it. Please keep me keep me updated with that, because I'd love to support it. I'd love to promote it. Like, anything you need from me, you've got, I promise.
Jax,
I mean it.
Fucking love you.
I fucking love you too. You don't know how excited I am about this. I know I'm supposed to be like super professional, but like, this is the most incredible interview, and the one that probably I have enjoyed the most. Sorry, anybody else I've ever interviewed, but like, this is the interview that I have just been like, I have been looking forward to this like for so long, because I'm just, okay, let me just, bring it back. Sorry, it's the autism. It's the filter that people, it's the non-filter people, autistic people, people like say autistic people don't have, and I have that like in waves, so please forgive me.
No, I honestly, I appreciate that, because I like to fangirl out too, and it is hard working next to people that you admire or love, and you love their work, and to be like, okay, I'm not gonna fangirl out because I'm a colleague, I'm an actor with you. But I'm not gonna lie, there are definitely actresses and actors, or if they all just want to be, called actors. I don't think I got to that part, but like, truthfully, characters to me are vessels, and it is a form of channeling. It is taking in our own experiences of how we identify the world. To me, any character is basically yourself on a barometer, right? So it's like, as a human being, we've experienced every emotion from fear, lust, happiness, joy, passion, jealousy. We have all of that. Where we are as individuals just depends on where we're at emotionally at any given time. So in receiving a character, I am also identifying when I've had that feeling and making sure that it does ring true to my physical being. But then doing my research to honor whatever culture I have the opportunity of playing. Where do they come from? What do they love? How do they interact? What is their passion, their goals, their desires, and embedding those like on top of it. And the actors and actresses that I've always loved for a lot of these qualities are so I know Angelina Jolie,
Yes.
not just because she's beautiful, but her role in Gia, where sexuality was so there. I mean, it is she totally let it all out. Every bit of her, every part of her craft, the cray-cray, the uncray-cray, you know, she was there. She was present, and she brought to life a story that was true, you know. Beautiful work, like, on her part. I loved her in Girl Interrupted, and then I loved her in Tomb Raider, where she did take on those masculine qualities of, I'm a fucking badass. This may be my meat shell or whatever, but I can kick your fucking ass. Like, so I loved her in that, you know. And I know these were some of her beginning works. You know, I know that she had other things that she dived into to show her more emotional capacity, but I resonated with it tremendously. Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Yes.
another powerhouse. Like, she is so incredibly feminine, but she has this intensity to her, and a very much, I don't give a shit what you think. Like, I loved her in The Haunting. Like, when she was in The Haunting, I was like, fuck yeah. Gosh, I wouldn't have even thought twice. We would have been in the room immediately. She would have hitting on me that hard. Bye, guys. See you in a little bit. Ghosties you can watch. When she was in Entrapment, I mean, Chicago, this is what I'm talking about. Like, she can be in Chicago, she's singing, she's dancing, she's doing all these other things that are so freaking beautiful. And I'm like, those are the characters that she's bringing to life are just beautiful. I was also really inspired by Sally Field for her role as Sybil.
Yes.
Differentiating between each character, what that meant, the physicality of it, the vocal tonality, bringing that energy, and realizing that as a performer, it is embracing every aspect of yourself and bringing it to the table. So her in that role, Linda Blair for The Exorcist.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, she was a baby, and she embodied something so well that you closed your eyelids and you're fucking terrified because it's right here. You can see it, and it's ultimately terrifying. But everything that she gave in that performance was so captivating that no matter what your belief system, it's still terrifying.
Yeah.
So yes, those are like my females that I really, really just got pulled into. I admire their abilities. I want nothing more than to play characters like that, where I can pull every tool from my tool belt and be like, I can use this. But as far as males go, Anthony Hopkins doesn't even have to talk. I was like, oh my God, Hannibal. I'm like, ah. Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm sorry, when he played the dragon, when he did the movements and like got into like his voice, it's inspiring. It's just something that I don't even care if I played roles that nobody ever saw me. If nobody ever saw me and I got to be these creatures, I would be engrossed in it. I totally would be in my slice of heaven. So I've had tons of inspiration. Obviously, you know, we gravitate towards individuals who embrace all of who they are, that bring it to the table, that, you know, sometimes when you're being these things, like, you know, me being the mummy, I'm moving naked. I'm sorry, that thighs move. You do this, boob shake. You know, you got everything going. You know, all those movements were mine. You know, so it's like, you know, there's nothing covering that up. You are there and you are embracing that shit and you're coming back to life. And, you know, it's, you know, I love everybody that was a part of the HBO cast, because they were like, we see everything that they're having you do. We feel like, is there anything that we can do to make you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
You know, and at this point, it's like, I'm Yahima and I'm coming back. I don't really care which direction my nipples are facing. I don't care if one's growing out, the other's not. I really, you know, that is not what's important in this moment. But yes, I loved that. So I really don't know how they got the mummy to overlap all of my movements. I know that they did have a trailer that they took me into that did have cameras, and they actually had me do even different facial expressions. So I do have on my resume facial gymnast. So I do have the ability to move each part of my face individually, including winking. So like if I see somebody staring at me, I'll like wink and they don't know if I winked or blinked. So they're like, did you wink or blinked at me? Of course, you know, alternating from side to side, tongue tricks, although those can definitely be sexualized really quick, but still nevertheless, really fun. So this one people don't really do, but touching the tongue.
I get
I remember I went into Guinness Book of World Records and they were showing like, can this person do that? And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that.
I can't do it.
So that's what I'm doing.
I'm trying. I can't do it.
Oh, now we're just having fun, but
I know, right? But I'm enjoying this. Like, please, like, I am thoroughly enjoying, like, myself. Please continue.
well, it's just us being weird, right, and accepting our weirdness. So, I mean, even voices is like a kid. My mom worked nights, and my brother, well, me and my brother were night owls to begin with. So, bedtime was 9. She left at 10. She had to be at work by 11, and we were up by like 11:30. And between Nickelodeon and you know trying to do dance moves with music videos, we were always up in the evening time. So there was a night though where I don't know, I just decided to be weird, I guess. So I hid inside my closet. So my brother comes into my room and he's like, Monique, are you sleeping? And I was like, David. Monique, is that you? Get over here. And he was like, Monique, stop it! Stop it! And I'm like, so I'm dying. I'm like, oh God, this is so great. But poor thing, he was just
poor thing.
I remember it took it till I was 13 years old where like I'd be sitting in the car and then I would look at him and then slowly start like changing like my face, He'd be like, Monique, stop it, stop making those faces at me. And I'm like, and he's just like, Mom, are you making ugly faces at me? And my mom would be like, baby, are you making ugly faces? I don't know, Mom. I'm not making any face at all. I don't know what he's talking about. So 13 years old, we're coming out of the grocery store. She's walking in front. I turn over to my brother, I'm making him a face. And all of a sudden she like turns back and she sees me. And I'm like, oh my God, that was the most ugly face I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh shit. Those games came to an abrupt halt because now when he said I was making an ugly face, she believed him.
Okay, so where can more people find more information about you and learn more about you?
I hate to say that, just Google is a good resource. Type my name in, Monique Candelaria. You'll find everything from legitimate sources like IMDb, my Facebook page, my Instagram page. You'll also find bizarre ones like WikiFeet that I had no idea was a thing.
WikiFeet?
Have you ever heard of that?
I'll Google it.
In 2012, my mom tells me, baby, guess what I found on the internet? And I'm like, shit, what did I do? I'm trying to think of like what I possibly could have done. And she's like, you ever heard of WikiFeet? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, look at this. So somebody took all of my photos from Facebook that show my feet and they put them on a site called WikiFeet where people rate your feet. And I'm like, as flattered as I am, it does suck to see like reviews of just like, yeah, beautiful feet. And other ones like, oh, who likes them juvenile bunions? And you're like, oh, my little heart kind of hurts, So yeah, she'll find things like that. But on Instagram is the one that I'm on the most. So MOCA369 is my Instagram account where I do post most of my acting stuff. Me as just a normal human living in my environment. I also do have an art page. Since COVID hit, I have started painting, and it's a new passion that I truly resonate with. And you can see that page at MKC.369. That one I'll be going into a lot more. I'm starting to work with different formats of not just acrylic pouring, but resin pouring. So that one's an adventure because I do feel that in art, we give an essence of ourselves into the projects that we create. So I can see it by the things that I'm captivated by, and I do see them in my work. So I do my best to title them as such and what they mean to me. But soon do keep an eye out for Shift Lifestyle. I don't like there being so many separations between people. It's like just some examples. You can be a singer, but if you don't play an instrument, suddenly you're not a musician.
Yeah.
If you are an artist, but you do it digitally, suddenly you're not an artist. If you're an actor, but you're a theater actor, not a film actor, suddenly your abilities aren't qualified by some degree or another. I don't like that. And for the exact reason that I said before, I feel like we need a simple way to identify and unity. I don't want separation. I want people to see that we are one and the same. So when we are communicating, as long as we are sculpting ourselves and changing our perception to be accepting of everyone in our environment, then we are on point and you are a shifter. So hopefully that becomes something that people can identify with, because even Two-Spirited is only particular to Native Americans. But I think that as we are becoming more enlightened, more people are finding themselves in this spiritual realm where they could identify as being Two-Spirited, but because they're not Native American, they're not able to use that term. So I want them to be able to have a term that they can use and that it can mean multiple things. So a shifter is that, you're taking everything that you're encompassed of and you're bringing it to the table. So yes, shift lifestyle.
So thank you a million times. Like, just thank you so much for your time. Like, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your knowledge, your insight, like just everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Jax,
you.
I love you. Thank you for reaching out to me. This whole thing means the world to me, and I only want to bring positivity and light. So let's do that.